Hi, and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from Myosin.xyz, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on onchain.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions.
Yeah,
Fun time.
that's the beauty. Yeah.
Fun time. Well, let's get into things. So apologies for the delay, folks. We just had some slight technical difficulties, but we are good to go now. So welcome, everyone. This is Chain Reactions. This is Myosin.xyz's weekly live stream and podcast where we talk to leaders, founders, heads of marketing from some of the best projects in the crypto space. Today, I'm Blake, yours truly, and this is Polina, my co-host. Say hi, Polina. And today we have Mounir, who's the co-founder of Velora, formerly known as Paraswap. Really excited to go into things, talk all about DEXs, aggregators, and tents, and the journey that you've taken. But to kick things off, Mounir, we'd love to kind of hear straight from you. If you could introduce yourself, and just maybe let's start with the very basics, which is, how did we get here? Where did this all start? How's the journey been? And let's start there.
So I've been working in tech for a few years. That's my background. I was a software engineer by training and worked with startups and big companies and for a few years. And in 2013, this was my first real contact with crypto, especially on the philosophical side, where I fell in love with the ideas of Bitcoin at that time. I remember it was a meetup in Paris. And since I've been following what's happening in crypto a bit, not as much as I think I should have been, which is a regrettable decision, I would say. But in 2017, this is where really I got into crypto, and it became like an obsession. Whenever I'm not working, I'm looking into crypto. It was the ICO days, and was also my first time of using DEXs. At that time, we had Ether Delta. That was a very weird. Like if you're looking at the user experience today of products, it seems like antiquity. It seems like something we should put in a museum. But yeah, anyways, it was all we got at that time, and it was making a lot of volume. In the standard of that time, a lot of volume means like 10 million, 20, 30 millions. And so
Early days.
yeah, exactly. It was like huge. And this was like the thing that built, I would say, the initial ideas behind Velora now and what used to be Paraswap. And being also an engineer, I found a lot of technical challenges that I found very interesting and was also challenging for me and motivating. And also, I wasn't able to hire my friends to something called DeFi that nobody heard of at that time. So many wanted to leave their job to join me. So I ended up just bootstrapping Paraswap at that time myself, and the rest is history.
So when did
go ahead.
when was Paraswap born? In 2019, right? I believe.
19, yes, 19.
Okay. So you've been a one-man team in 2019, bootstrapping and building it. When did that, change and became a bigger thing, like with a bigger team?
Yeah, it changed actually in 2020. This is where I started pitching investors. It was in March in ETC 2020. After let's say we started in September, and after 6-7 months, I'm like, okay, now I did 4 million a month in volume, which seemed like really big. And it's time to pitch investors and raise funds and build a team. And it was just a few days before COVID hit, and the big shutdown happened. So it took some time, but not that much, because 3-4 months later, we had this all COVID money printing that hit the markets, and we started a new bull run, which allowed me and Paraswap to finally fundraise and build the team. And now we're 15, 16 plus team. And anyways, whatever I was doing at that time, I don't think it's possible now, because market got more complex. We used to have Ethereum and 4 DEXs. Now we have hundreds of exchanges and tens of thousands of liquidity pools. So whatever I was able to do at that time, it's kind of almost impossible right now.
So how did you get that initial traction? How did it evolve? the strategy?
Yeah, well, I mean, it went through phases. The very initial one, I launched with a very naive approach, thinking that I can build a UI for everyone, and that UI would replace the centralized exchanges. So I was targeting like the Coinbase users, the ones who are using maybe the Changely users, because in my mind, which is now true, but it was just early at that time, that a DEX experience is supposed to be better than a centralized exchange. In a centralized exchange, you need to open an account, KYC, share your whole life, and it takes time to onboard. Then you have to deposit and like trust the third party and all of that. With DeFi, you just need a wallet and your funds and your wallets. You don't need to do any onboarding. You just push a button and you get the job done. So this seems correct in theory, and it's correct right now. The thing that is missing is presupposing that wallets are already loaded and people are already have wallets and understand what's gas and all of those things, which wasn't the case at that time. So the very first feedbacks I got is like, oh, I wanted to buy Bitcoin in your platform and I couldn't find it. I'm like, okay, it's not like that because it's EVM. The moment I start using what for me was normal, but for everyone else is like buzzwords or like jargon, I lose them completely. I'm like, okay, this is too complex, not for me. I'm going to Binance or Coinbase. So yeah, it took me like a few weeks to notice that maybe this is way too early. And DeFi is a niche. It was like just a few thousand individuals in a Telegram group. So let's maybe figure out what this niche needs and build something that will satisfy those needs. And it turns out that I have a long-term plan to build a more complex aggregator, something that will have an API that expand to developers. So I'm like, maybe this is the product and that's what I should focus on. And it was indeed true. And the validation came because there were two other products who also had similar ideas. One of them is our biggest competitor right now. Another one disappeared. And the first one actually that I knew in the beginning because they no longer exist, but they were really the reference. So I'm like, okay, these guys had the exact same idea, but they are getting it wrong. I think the product should be blah, blah, blah. We can get into more details. And it was basically like more simpler. Say it again?
I was just saying, feel free to name names. We can go a little spicy here if you want.
Well, no. Yeah, it's. I think yeah, I call it like this. What it was used to be called Total. The founder is really amazing. It's a really cool guy. I think he left to Coinbase. And anyways, they were building something too complex. Like instead of just building a DEX of swap token A to B, they had like a portfolio rebalancing kind of UI that does really, really complex things. And I'm like, okay, wait, this is cool, but there is one thing that people need is just like, I want to buy ETH and I want to sell ETH and I want just to sell token A for B. That's it. Like the Google-like experience in the Yahoo. So they were building a Yahoo and I thought, we need a Google first. We don't need all this like fluffy and fancy features. And that was indeed true. And while building that, this is where 1inch, our biggest competitor right now, did the same thing. Like they were also working on SWAP. Like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one coming up with the same idea. I think I launched with a bad approach because I came with this UI. So let's not, instead of building something for devs and for like DeFi natives, let's build it for the crowds, like for the retail, which made me lose maybe a few months to go to market. But anyways, at that time, very, very few people were using DeFi, so it didn't make really a difference.
No. So you were really just kind of narrowing in on it. I mean, that's such an interesting story here, right? Because I think when we think about, especially in this space, devs love to dev, they love to build unlimited features, right? And so it's really refreshing to hear that you very quickly figured out, okay, I'm really targeting DeFi users. I want to create as simple an experience as possible, and you double down on. I'm curious about, how were the past couple of years? Because I think we'll very quickly get to the most recent developments. But before we get to that, how has that evolution been for when you were Paraswap, right? How has that journey been? What were some of the bigger learnings, I think, in terms of user acquisition, in terms of developing the product, creating the features that people were looking for? How's that journey been? It's because, you're very much an OG in this DeFi space, right? You were actually doing it before DeFi Summer because that was 2020. So
yeah,
we'd love to hear some war stories. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think it's been always the thing. Yeah, was been always listening to users. Like the very first things I did is go into that Telegram group. Used to be called DeFi, like D_Fi. just DMing, sometimes cold DMing some of the people who are active because I really knew nobody at that time. Sometimes I guess like people ignoring me, can understand. But sometimes I get very, very specific feedback. People will go to our UI, send me screenshots like this you're doing wrong. Those are my needs. Some they were even kind enough to hop on a call with me and tell me exactly what they need and tell me also exactly their frustrations using other products. There weren't many, but anyways, I was able to get insights and quickly iterate. So each time I will build something, I will send it to them to see their feedback. The thing I think was good. Those were very, I would say, technical users, like DeFi native users, not engineers, but like you see what I mean. So the feedback were very good, and implementing their ideas often leads into satisfying other users' needs. Because there's always this trap of some entrepreneurs doing exactly whatever their users are asking for. And there's so much you can do. And also there are conflicting requirements. So you end up with like a spaghetti type of product that doesn't really fulfill the needs of anyone.
You know, you gotta know who
too
your
many
super users are. Who are the people who you should really be building for is always the hardest thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I was lucky because it was a niche and you get the feedback right from like the end users who are adding value. But now things are more complex because we still have those users who you can say are making like 80% more of the volumes. And you have the retail users who are making few $100 users, which are also as important. But getting the feedback of the big guys and the small guys is more challenging nowadays. So it's not just, you cannot hop on a call with everyone. At that time, there were like just a few dozen or handful of people. So I think the techniques for building feedback and understanding what users want got more challenging over time.
I think generally, I don't know if it came naturally to you because community was probably not that big of a buzzword then, but you're this rare example of a founder and engineer who has this knack for community building and building the product together with the community, because getting insights directly from users and actually acting on them is something that's, I mean, you find gold in these interviews, and very few founders actually make up the time to connect with their users. And that's ultimately what leads to long-term brand loyalty, right? So I guess that came naturally to you.
Indeed, yeah, 100% agree. Engineers, they like to build fancy and cool stuff and complex. But yeah, I think, yes, you're building something for users, so you gotta first think user and then think technical for sure.
Do you now have, the subset of power users still active on a, I mean, I don't know, maybe a Discord or Telegram group that you still consult with them on like big decisions or let them beta test some of the upcoming features?
I think we don't do as good as we used to, for sure. We have a community in Discord, Telegram a little bit much less. We are more on Discord. We have also a DAO active in our forum. Also a community of investors who are also big users. Also, one thing about Velora is most of our volume is coming from third parties. So we have a community of other builders who are using our protocol and providing us feedback all the time. And also we use some, unfortunately, Web2 analytics tools to understand a little bit the retention and how users are like using our app to build this like feedback loop. And yeah, that's how we're building. There's a B2B side that's still, I would say, kind of look like the past, where we have a lot of one-to-ones with our users, and B2C where we try to build those insights coming from the market.
What are the tools that you're using to track retention?
We use now Mixpanel, and we used to be in Google Analytics. I think it's still there, but nobody is using it. But Mixpanel, we like it because it's very simple and we can build the right dashboards that we really care about. And we don't do too much tracking. So each time we will build the version, we will build just like the trackers that will track like the user journey in that particular feature. And we try to do like A/B test and try to like compare various options. So that turns out to be good. But now the thing we haven't done yet and we are looking forward to is using tools like Safari and Co to see how we can get more accurate data, because it's not just about Web 2 versus Web 3. With like Web 3 tools, you can get like more deeper insight, and you can even also customize the experience for certain users that may have different needs than others.
I'd love to, double click on the analytics side of things and just kind of like insights or things you've learned. Because I think that's a common question of like building out that funnel, how do you drive volume towards, everyone's looking for more people to trade and swap on their exchanges or dexes or aggregators or however you want to describe it. So, I mean, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, right, in a public setting, like what have been some of the biggest insights for you in terms of like, where are Paraswap users coming? Has it very much been a word of mouth experience? I'm assuming you guys aren't putting out ads as far as I'm aware, right? But like, what has been the main driver for you guys so far?
There's a lot of word of mouth for sure, because we see like a direct like users coming directly to our app. And our main channel is still Twitter. So this is where we build awareness and drive traffic. So yeah, Twitter and direct. Excuse me, what was the other question? How do we track what?
No, I think it was really just like, what have the main channels been? What are some interesting insights you may or may not have found?
Yes.
Wow, a lot of people are coming in through this way, or this thing worked, or
yes.
Yeah.
Twitter. We have used some of the quests before, like Galaxy, Layer 3, and all of this, but it's very short-term thing. Like we get some traffic during the campaign. Once the campaign goes, like everyone leaves. So it can work with some in some, I don't know, frankly, for us, we haven't figured out like where it can really work in a sustainable way. Like not definitely, but definitely not as a user acquisition strategy. So still like organic reach is the thing that's been working well for us.
And then on the community side, we'd love to learn a bit more about, how you guys think about your community. Are they all on Discord? Like, everyone's got a different strategy. Everyone talks about it differently, but how have you guys been approaching it? And how have you been thinking about it?
Yeah, mainly we use Discord and forum, obviously among other like the Twitter channels and all of that. So Discord and the forum. The thing we did on the community side is trying to make our DAO as professional as possible. So it used to be open bar as many DAOs, like naively thinking that everything is going to build and work by itself, which guess what didn't happen. So we got help from professional delegates or like meta governance groups like SeedGov, who were super, super helpful, and brought with them also other delegates from other groups like Ignas that you may know. And so we've seen like, first of all, a much better structure and a more rational and pragmatic building of the processes of the DAO. But also each time we see some delegates, they become like biased towards Velora, and they get more involved, and that also brings other users and other participants into the community. So it's like was a nice way to rebuild the community in a way that's much more structured and more organic. And we haven't had to like do this hard pushy work of bringing these people like you mentioned, like with quests, like those things that are too aggressive but don't sustain long term. So we see like in a nice organic linear growth of the community that's super sustainable and more sticky.
And that's what we love so much about Web3, right? I think, we talk about community being such a buzzword, but I think, something I've written about in the past, we just call it direct to community, because that's the exciting thing about this industry, right? Is you can build something and your community can really take ownership and be a part of it. And then as any marketer will tell you, right? Like word of mouth referral is gold. And so if you can really drive that sense of ownership and getting people to refer other people and just getting like it pays for itself, quite literally, right?
Indeed.
So it's exciting. Well, actually, Paulina, do you have a thought? Oh.
I wanted to kind of get to the nitty gritty of the, Paraswap, Velora. Why did it happen on the first place? And a second that I'm interested about is whether or not you had any, challenges like or pushback from the community and how you handled.
Yeah, I think it took us in the beginning few weeks of brainstorming whether we should do it in the first place. That was an internal discussion. And we thought it's really a good idea because we want to change our positioning. We think that intents are really the future of trading. The way we do trading right now is I think it's too technical. You need to know what's gas. You need to have gas in your wallet. You need to like to manage like 20, 30 chains. This is not going to be the way we will like build mass adoption. So intents are the way we abstract the access to Web3 in general, and also definitely for trading. So we want...
Just to level set with, in case someone doesn't know what intent based trading is, can you explain in like 20, 30 seconds? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Yes. So, well, basically the way we transact in DeFi is by having a MetaMask wallet or Rabi or equivalents. And we sign a message like we need gas, like some ETH, and we get something to transact. It can be a trade. For instance, I will sell ETH. Let's say we want to buy the dip now. So let's buy ETH with USDC. And when using Velora or Paraswap, it tells you, okay, you're gonna trade using Uniswap and Balancer because this is the best combination that will give you the best price. And when you hit swap, you commit yourself as a user to swap through Balancer and Uniswap, and you set all these parameters and the gas preset, the gas price, you set the gas limit, all of this yourself, you're pushing the transaction directly to the blockchain. Great, it's decentralized, fine, but I can do it, you guys can do it, but not the other billion people who don't care. They just want to buy the dip or like sell ETH to like whatever reason. Intent, you just say, I want to buy ETH. This is very similar to what we have in Coinbase and Binance and all centralized exchanges, or even in Venmo and Revolut, where I just want to buy ETH with that amount. And that's it. I see this price. I like this price. I want to buy it at that price. You just define the outputs. Like I want to buy ETH at 1500 USDC, and that's it. Then behind the scenes, there are various models that try to, can be like auction model, can be just like simple gasless models. But you, bottom line, as a user, you don't care how it's done. You just worry about the outputs, which is I'm buying ETH at that price. Does that explain?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we think this is the future. And at least for mass adoption, but not only, also for professional use. I think high frequency traders, like other kind of payments providers and all of this, not everyone has to get into the nitty-gritty detail of every single layer of the stack. Everyone would want to worry about their core business. So it goes also for developers and for technical people. So we want to position ourselves there, in not only in intent, but also in chain abstraction world, where now we have more and more chains, more and more layer 2s, layer 3s, you name it. So we think this is too cumbersome for users. Some they can justify that on a technical level. Right now we still market L2s, but I hardly imagine a world in 5, maybe 10 years that someone will like build a marketing telling their people we are L2. Maybe they can do it with developers, but like now, if I try with friends of mine who are not in Web3, tell them this is an L2, I would like be speaking an alien language. So I think we want to abstract the chains, the underlying chains, and also the way the transactions happen. So those were our motivations. And then came the idea, the thing was like, how do we call this? What should be the name? We struggled a little bit, so we thought, okay, we want to like come up with the code name that will be catchy enough and will be abstract enough so that people can like relate to it. And we came up with the name Project Miro. That was Oxytocin. You may see him in our Twitter. He's our head of governance strategy. And he came up with that name. It's a Spanish abstract artist that got approved by the DAO after, I think, a month of some back and forth and some feedbacks. Then now came the question, like, what should be the name of the new brand? We spent a few weeks, I think, on brainstorming. We came up in the beginning with the name Ara. Ara is like a Brazilian parrot called Ara. And it seems cute and nice. And we wanted also this, because the thing is with Paraswap, it used to be too boring, like very straightforward, very functional. And we thought maybe we can give it some life, like some animal, or maybe like a person. And so we ended up with Ara because it's super cute. But then our head of design came, you guys are nice, but what is the value prop? Well, speed. Well, a parrot is not fast. Well, it's faster than others, but yeah, well, this is not really the value prop. So we did some design sprints, and I think it took us like 2 weeks with few iterations. And then we came up with Velora that indicates value, velocity, and a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, so it took us some time to get there.
I love that. And, like a bit of my agency background was in brand strategy. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that you guys went from something so descriptive and functional from like Paraswap to something a bit more abstract where you can really build a brand around it. And then the cheetah, representing speed, which actually I think ties very nicely into what I was going to ask, which was, I think what's quite interesting, we've had past guests on who have also talked about intents in a different context. I think James from Across Protocol and a bunch of others, right? Now we're talking about intents in the context of trading for DEXs, but we'll be curious because I'm sure there are others also tackling a similar challenge, right, with intent-based trading. So we'd love to better understand with Velora, what is it that you guys do best? Is it the speed? Is it the efficiency? And that's why Velora and the Cheetah, is that the leading value prop with intent-based trading? Or how do you guys think about, what really makes you stand out? What makes you different from the rest of the crowd?
Yeah, speed is like the focus, and that's hence also the name and the brand positioning, especially when it comes to cross-chain. So for those who haven't used bridges, it may take, the fastest ones may take like 5 to 10 minutes, but sometimes it may take hours and it's a black box. With intent-based designs, it allows us to have with some trade-offs, and obviously not in security, for at least not for the user, to be able to deliver a very fast experience. So it can be from between L2s, it may last only a few seconds. And between big L1s with long finality, like Ethereum, it can last like up to 1 or 2 minutes. So that's the value prop where we want users, when they're trading from one chain to another, to feel like they are trading on the same chain, which is not the case right now when you use some cross-chain products, where sometimes they may provide some fast experience, but they may like move the trade-off on the user, I would say, pricing. Like, for instance, I may lose a lot of money just to get a faster experience, which is not really good. So we try to build the best sweet spot between getting the best possible prices thanks to our like auction system, and also at the same time getting a faster finality of your cross-chain swap.
I love that. Makes a lot of sense. Paulina, I think you got a question.
Yeah, I wanted to, now that you have a more sort of retail friendly, from what I, hear, product, Velora, how does your marketing approach, or growth approach, differs between, Paraswap and what was working there to now Velora and where you see it going?
I think with Paraswap, we were focused a lot on the products, which is still the case, of course. Like, we try to build the best possible products, but maybe only on the products, or like much more on the product than communicating about the products. So now I think we're doing better job on communication, like making sure that as many people know about that this product exists and this is what it does and all of that. So I think this will be the shift in moving forward in strategy, is putting more balance on the communication and distribution, then building like more on the product features itself, which definitely will stay and will double down on what we do. But I think this was a weakness we had in the past, is like we weren't good enough in communicating.
Mm-hmm. But with Paraswap, you mentioned that you were quite strong with B2B side of things, right? Because a lot of the partners were driving the volume. With Velora, would this focus still be on B2B, or do you see it being as a more B2C product?
I would say Paraswap is, you can see it as a protocol, as an infrastructure. So in any ways, anyone can use it. And on the B2B side, like, gotta continue. And we see our front end as one of the users of the protocol. And it's one of the top three users. So it's still very important. And also it's a place where we can always showcase what's new. Here we launch cross-chain. We won't need to wait for any partner to integrate the cross-chain. We can be always the first user of any feature we build on the protocol side. So we want to double down and build more users, because that also helps on marketing. If you have more UI users, you have more direct relationship with many people who are in the space, because those are like the main users right now, especially in market in like market timings like this, most of the majority of users who are like our crypto Twitter friends. So I think it's a good product marketing to have direct connection with those users. And many of the B2B users started, they are users of our front end, and they like the experience, so they will recommend their company or like their project to integrate it.
So it would be correct to assume that your big focus is doing better comms on X and maybe Discord or maybe Farcaster even, or what are the
Farcaster,
plans?
I think is a good one. We tried it at some points, but we haven't used it as much. And DBank as well. We were playing at some point with DBank and Farcaster that have really, really good communities. But yeah, I think Farcaster is a good one that we should maybe focus on at some point.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because there are all these different ecosystems. We had Matcha on a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're going super hard on Warpcast as well. Everyone's got their own channels, everyone's got their own approaches. Would love to kind of dive a little bit deeper into how you view the landscape, right? And the evolution of all this, like because I think something I guess that's been on my mind, and it is a bit out of left field, but curious how you think about this, is where swaps will eventually come into when it comes to, I guess I'm thinking a lot about stablecoins. I think about neobanks. I'm thinking about the intersection of Web 2 and Web 3. Because what we're seeing right now, this is just top of mind, is there's a lot of neobanks that are starting to enter crypto. And we've talked to a couple different blockchains and DeFi players who are trying to enter and help set up like bank accounts and get in touch with more of those people. So curious about, as you guys continue evolving and growing, is there a thought or a plan in the coming year or two, I guess, to start thinking about how could we onboard more normies? Maybe even, maybe it's like non-custodial wallets, allowing anyone to kind of participate in a more easy manner. Curious about that, if that's ever on top of mind or something you guys are thinking about.
Yeah, I think we're very close because I was playing with some apps. I think it was Legion. They have like a wallet where you can open an account just with an email address and fund that account like on a wallet that created on the spot. So I think it's just a matter of time by just doing a collage of the tool that exists and are working fine, and they're still non-custodial. That's also the magic, because we used to have these kind of things, but they're like custodial and like someone holding the keys behind the scenes. So I think we're not far away there. But I see this in two ways. One is like building end user products that are retail focused with decentralized tech. Just a matter of time before we start to see like the big players emerging. But also on the other side, the Revoluts and the Venmos of the world adopting DeFi tech behind the scenes as a backend tool. We know that CeFi products like Binance, those others, they are using DeFi behind the scenes somehow, like providing liquidity to lending protocols, borrowing from there, and all of that. And also trading would be definitely a use case that would be coming soon. So I see it DeFi as like maybe an end user product package with the existing tools like non-custodial wallet, email-based wallets, and also being adopted on the backend invisible, where you as an end user, you will be using Revolut, you will be maybe buying ETH and BTC and like earning some yield on some protocols without even having to know. So you can have USD, but maybe that USD behind the scenes will be converted into a stable coin and deposited into Aave or Morpho, building some yield. But you as a user, maybe you don't care if it's in Aave or Morpho. What you care about is like you are making some yield and you withdraw USDC, or maybe you just pay with your credit card. So I think, yes, we may have those two categories that will be emerging, and one of them will be, I think it's already done.
Paraswap's going to play a role in it, right? Coming soon.
Yeah, for trading, everyone will use Velora.
Exactly. That's the game plan.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, because you have, I mean, in traditional finance, tools like middlewares like Velora are very normal. It can be just like in a simple aggregator format where for executing, especially in the Forex markets, that like are open 24/7 and quite complex, and also like there are many markets and many forex markets. They call them SOR, smart order routers, which is like the name we use as well in the space. And they are all intent based, by the way. Like they don't tell you we're gonna execute in that and that exchange. Each store have their own algorithms and their own way of execution. Yes, it's based on trust. Here we don't need to build anything based purely on trust, but the same concept exists. So I think trading crypto using like infrastructures like Velora is just a matter of time from where we can start seeing this happening in reality, or either real world assets or also crypto adopted by TradeFi or like fintech companies.
And that's actually something interesting. You touched on RWAs. I'm curious how you see real world assets, coming into play with Velora in the coming months, years. Is that something you guys are thinking about? And you're interested in participating in that space, whether it's the Paraswap protocol or Velora itself, or how you're doing that? I'm curious.
But for us, as long as something is tokenized and has liquidity on chain, we can be useful. We have a big partner called Usual Finance. They are a real world asset, and they use Paraswap behind the scenes. They use it for their swap UI, but also we have all the native integrations built behind the scenes. So when you use the Usual, you are also using Velora behind the scenes. And so we are like a layer built on top. Can be as RWAs or other fields, but yes, I think RWAs will be big in the future, since we can clearly see the value of tokenization.
And then how do you think about, I know we talked about like chain abstraction, like multi-chain, like, we'd love to get a little, not too spicy, but what are the chains that you're most bullish on nowadays? Or maybe the better way to say is, what are chains you would like to integrate that you see out there today that you haven't yet partnered with? I'm just curious.
What we want to be in Velora, especially what we call Delta, because there is what we call market mode and Delta mode. Market is the aggregator, Delta is the intent product. We want to be like in a stack, like when you launch a new chain, you want typically your Uniswap v3, your Aave, your like RPC nodes, and we want Velora to be one of the default building blocks. So each time someone would launch a new chain, they will have Velora built in. And we have a lot of open source libraries that can be used to build like what you call an agent, which others call solvers. So you can have a fully working product from day one, just in like few clicks or like few command lines. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I launch a new chain. I have my DEX, my lending protocol, and my intent trading protocol, or like let's call it just trading protocol. That this is the ambition, is to have it in built in every stack. Frankly, I don't think we will be in a world with, I'm like in the camp who doesn't believe that we will have thousands of chains in the future. At least not generalized.
We have way too many.
Yeah. We already have way too many. I agree. Yeah. In many ghost chains. So I think maybe it could be like very specialized chains that have like some like reasons, the very concrete reasons why they exist. But yeah, like all those L2s that are built, so like marketing or hype driven, I think this is just a sign of emerging markets. And yeah, I don't worry too much about the future of having to integrate thousands of chains, because it really takes time.
But if you had to pick from, if you had to pick from existing ones, which one would it be?
Yeah, we're gonna keep pressing him in here.
He's very political.
I think now we are missing Sonic because it got a good traction. So maybe this will be a good candidate. We think we want to build also on zk-Sync because they are building a nice ecosystem, and now like Lens Chain launched as a layer 3 of zk-Sync. Those are the ones that come to mind. There is a Sonic, I forgot the name, Somonium or something like Sonic blockchain.
What about Mantle? What do you think about Mantle?
Why not? I don't know much about the ecosystem. I think we talked to them before. But we're kind of agnostic, as long as we can add value, and as long as there is like some fragmentation, like there's one DEX and two liquidity pools, maybe we're not going to add that much value. But if there is some activity, some volume, some good TVL, we can be useful.
Got it. Okay. No, I was just curious. That's one of the L2s that's been back in my mind. I've been quite bullish on them, gotten to know a lot more of their team, and I've been playing around with it. So it's been interesting. We'll see how things go. There's a lot of them out there, so hard to pick.
Yes.
You won every day almost.
Exactly. I think we're coming up on time, and I know we started late, so I think Mounir, if you have a little bit of extra time, I think we could run over a little bit. That's okay with you?
Of course.
Yeah. But we can start to wrap things up. So I would love to kind of zoom out a little bit and kind of get your take on, as we are, it's so strange, right? Like, we're in, as some people might call it, the worst bull market of all time, right? And now we have tariffs that are in this trade war, and sentiment's so strange. But at the same time, we have a lot of regulation, at least from an American perspective, being passed that's super bullish for the industry. And we also have regulation in EU, and we're seeing adoption happen in this world. So number one, we'd love to get your hot take on, where you see, what are your craziest predictions, I guess, for 2025 for the state of crypto, DeFi, and specifically like intent-based trading. Well, let's just start there, because I don't want to throw too many questions at you all at once, but we'd love to get your hot take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, like putting aside like the prices, which are not looking great today, I think we've seen that all the time in crypto. If you see like in 2018 and 2022, I don't know which one was worse. Like, this seems a little bit something like between COVID and FTX time.
Yeah. Somewhere in between.
Yes, somewhere in between. But the thing is, like, good project always continue building. They never stop. And so there's no interruption at all, no matter. I mean, of course, we always still prefer, bull market, because there are more users coming, there's more funding, there's like more enthusiasm and excitement. But the thing is, the best players, they stick around and they double down in what they're doing and try to do even more, because now whatever we do is much more visible than in a noisy bull market. Even a few months ago with the meme coin mania,
oh my God,
it was very hard to like even stood out with something super interesting. Now I think in this kind of market conditions, whatever we do, as long as it adds value, it's easily noticeable than in a very, very noisy bull market. So we think it's just like just yet another bad market timing. And as you said, we have finally now good regulations and clarity. And what I think is funny, before, like last year, before Trump, the Americans used to point at the Europeans, like, look at the Europeans, they have good regulations. And now I feel like the opposite is happening. The Europeans, like, look at the Americans, they are like more pro crypto and you're overcomplicating things. I found that quite funny.
It's always greener. We always want the other thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, but anyways, yes, the governments are way more crypto friendly than they used to be a few years ago, and what a relief in the US. I hope that the situation, like economically speaking, will get resolved. But frankly, what a relief, because in the previous administration, we always felt like criminals just by building cool software and things that add value, and now we're getting the recognition, regardless of our political opinions. But at least we have a good setup right now, and finally, US is back in that sense of being pro crypto and pro business.
It's amazing. It's a bullish time for the industry, certainly. And I think you're right. As we talked about, builders keep building. I mean, you guys have been here for you guys are one of the OGs. So 6 years now, longer, right? It's
late 2019, almost.
Perfect. And so with that being said, I think, as we're about to head into rapid fire questions. The last thing we always love to end on is, we'd love to get a sense from you of what are you most excited about for Velora in the coming year, all right? With all this bullish tailwinds, at least on the regulatory front, right? What are you guys planning on? What should people expect? What are the new things that, as much as you can say, right? What should people be looking out for, at least thinking about?
Yeah, well, more expansion. Obviously, cannot say exactly how things will look like. Some things we have planned and we have in our roadmap. Others, we try to always adjust, even though if we put something on the roadmap, conditions change, market change, and user expectation change. So we are kind of flexible there. But we want to expand. We want to also double down a lot on abstraction. The ideal world, like the end game is to be able to trade without even having to think about which chain you are. So you can buy a stable coin or even buy a dollar. So I have a dollar, doesn't matter if it's USDC, USDT, or anything else. Doesn't matter which chain is it. I just push a button and I put it, like make it on a protocol to generate yield, or maybe I buy something I like. It can be ETH BTC, or it can be a real world asset, without having to worry that there is a blockchain and we do the magic behind the scenes. This is
That'd be so nice.
what we want to be, just like mysterious, invisible actor that can do magic.
Are you saying there's a world in which maybe I could on-ramp a dollar and then buy any crypto asset on an L2? That could be quite exciting. I'm just saying.
Yes, it's actually possible, but it's not as straightforward and not as abstract. You still need to know a lot, and the less the end user has to know, the better. And this is, I think, where we will reach, like, finally this infrastructure that can allow us to have mass adoption.
I'm excited. Coming soon. Coming soon.
It's funny how we're all about, like, the blockchain is all about transparency and everything, but then the less the user knows, the better, the more streamlined the thing is.
Yes, that's a very good point. But if they want to know, they can. That's all the main difference between Web3 and Web2, because Web2 you don't know because you can't in the first place. So it's a good user experience, but it's always a black box. Here you don't need to know, but if you want to know, yes, you can audit the whole stack if you want.
Yeah, it's like, don't overdo it. Just provide information, but don't push it on them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, then I think we can get into rapid fire round. We have 4 questions prepared for you today. The first one is the most underrated marketing tactic in Web3 right now.
I think very few are talking about product marketing. I feel like we talk a lot about KOLs and like many channel acquisition channels and all of this, but like just making the product build its own traction and like make itself viral and make its users bring other users. I feel like it's not something that gets as much attention as it should be. Even I see not as much product marketing people in the space. Maybe we need more of this.
That's true.
I'm in agreement on that. I think it's so funny, like even at Myosin, right? Like we're a network of marketers, but we have like growth marketers, but then we have product marketers and brand marketers join. And we're kind of like, we have this guild system. We're like, where do we put them? Like, do we put them in like product marketing guilds? Like, no. And we always end up just kind of lumping them into like growth, which is not perfect. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of value they bring that. I think I agree. We haven't quite given them their kudos yet. So fingers crossed, more of it.
All right. Next one is the worst advice you've seen being pushed in crypto.
I've seen a lot, so I don't know which one is the worst. Yeah, I think the worst that I saw is some teams very naively launching a token thinking that this will build adoption for their products. And I think it consistently doesn't work. Maybe it works if we are in some very rare period of the market, but I see a lot of advice in that sense of pays or like give some allocations to some KOLs and make it all about the token. Doesn't matter the products. And it rarely works. And if it works, it means it's like very temporary. And I think this is one of the worst the advices I've saw in the space.
And it's so true, right? Because what is a token launch but just the Web3 version of like an IPO, right? You don't IPO a company with no fundamentals, no product, no community. Like you're actually making it harder for yourself, as you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like you're giving away power over your product to people who have no allegiance. It's crazy. Yeah.
The next one is, which crypto project or brand is crushing it right now, in your opinion?
I think Aave are the ones who are doing best these days, and especially consistently with some good marketing. But I like also their marketing, like very community driven with things like the Rave, and I think their marketing is really efficient, seems to be discreet. Like some people, it may seem like as if they're not doing marketing, and that's, I think, the beauty when like people like your product without even thinking that they are being sold the product, maybe a la Apple, if you would.
The best marketing you don't even know is happening. That's the secret.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the last one, and Blake's favorite, is looking back, what's your biggest learning as a Web3 founder?
Yeah, a lot of learnings. But being a founder, of course, you guys can relate. It's like very lonely thing, being even with the co-founder. So I think it takes a lot of persistence and a lot of patience, which I had to learn. So I'm a very impatient guy, but I learned patience a lot by being an entrepreneur. So I think this is the thing I got the most from, is like building this patience. And it took me some time, because in the beginning, I just want things to go fast. When I was like a one-man show, I can get things super fast because like there's one monolithic person doing everything. But with a team, things get built differently, and each person have their own ways. So I had to adapt to that, and it took me some time. But it's like the thing I learned the most during my career.
I love that one. And I can relate to it, right? Because I think that's the hard thing, is like when you're starting something and it's fresh, as you said, you're a one-man show, so you can just do everything.
Yeah.
When you're trying to scale a team, it's like you have to just, the hard part is letting go, right? A little bit. You're just like, I'm gonna trust it, and then why aren't they growing as fast as I need them to? And it's like, as you said, everything takes time. You got to coordinate people. You got to build systems. You got to build the trust and the relationships.
But also find the people who you can trust.
Finding the right people is so hard.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
It's like, the struggle.
We're doing it as a DAO, so it's even harder, right? It's you know, so it's been a journey. Yeah, we're DAOing it. Mounir, this was really incredible. Thanks so much for hopping on and talking all about Paraswap and Velora. We'd love to, we're about to wrap up, but one last thing is obviously we'd love to give you a chance to show yourself, Velora. What should people be looking out for? Where can they find you? What's the call to action for you? Your space to show the way. Yeah.
Yeah, the best place to follow us is Velora Dex in X, just like add Velora Dex, or Velora.xyz. We try to communicate almost every day of new features and what's happening in our ecosystem. So I would say yes, people are super welcome to follow us at Velora Dex. That will be the best place to start.
Amazing. All right. Well, I think with that, that's everything. So, Paulina, anything else? Feel good?
All good. Thanks, Mounir, for coming on.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thanks. Ciao.